All right, Jason. Good evening, everyone. And so we'll continue where we stopped. And we had a little break in the spring break. And then a week after, which was a tragedy, my father-in-law died. And my wife was devastated. So they called us 2 weeks ago on a Friday at noon. And then they said, well, he's in the hospital. You better come right now. So we went and we barely caught him while he was alive. And then his daughter was with him and his other family members. And then the next day by 8 in the morning, he was already gone. So at least we were, thanks God, we were able to go and catch him while he was alive. That way, his daughter, which my wife, did not, doesn't feel guilty all her life that she was away before she saw him before he died. But so far, I think we have moved from the Tableau and now we are in the Power BI. And I believe also Power BI is very powerful, very relevant to all of you. And I believe that will be a great skill that you will put in your technical aspects and your technical skills in your resume. So when I mentioned the Power Query, the ETL, extract, transform, and load, we're going to be doing that all the time. And then, so today we're going to go over a class exercise. And before we start, I just wanted to to give you a roadmap how we are going to start from here until the end. So we are going to change the class style and we are going to call it a flipped classroom from now on. So we're going to meet once a week instead of twice a week, right? And we will decide which day it's going to be, either Tuesday or Thursday, but I will let you know ahead of time, right? So for example, next week, we are going to meet on Thursday instead of Tuesday, right? So Tuesday will not meet. So that's how we are going to come and the book is very straightforward. I hope that you have been enjoying that book. So at least the first week was just kind of installing the software. And then I provided you with chapter 6, which is we are kind of going backward, right? But it is very important that we start with the data cleaning, data preparation, right? Data loading, data modification, data manipulation, right? So what I did, I have changed the deadline for that extra credit. So chapter 6 is going to be extra credit for you. And I extended that deadline until, and I saw you finished it, you did really well. So that means you have been working with Power BI.
I'm excited about the Power BI.
Perfect. Yeah, it is powerful, especially in the HR. I have one of my former students, he always wants people from my students who are good with data visualization. And now if he knows that we have Power BI, I mean, he's going to go crazy happy, right?
Okay.
So, and because he does a lot of reports, a lot of comparison between clinics. So you need, and we are going to do one example today where you have reports from different areas that have the same style, the same finding, combine them, and then run the analysis, right? So that's basically what they really need, especially local and small businesses. They use Power BI a lot. Tableau is mostly for bigger corporations, right? Bigger companies. Power BI is very helpful for small and medium-sized companies. So again, kind of to reiterate, we are going to meet, we call it flipped classroom. So where you are going to go through the book, and the book gives you videos and gives you also material to read and hands-on you finish. Whatever you finish in that book, it will automatically sync into Blackboard for your grades, right? So feel free to do it until you get a perfect score. I believe it allows you to redo it until you get a perfect score. So for that extra credit, I extended the deadline until April 28th. So you can finish it anytime.
When we're doing those, and if we're following along with the Power BI, we don't have to upload the Power BI file, right?
Yes, you don't have to.
Just doing the assignment in the.
Yes, in that electronic book. So it will give you kind of a quiz based on what you have built in your Power BI. And then to answer those, so you don't have to upload it. Perfect. But for the training, that's a different story, right? One, you already did training for week 10. So you just follow along. And then if there is anything, like for example, Tom, he brought up to my attention that some of the the files were not there. So the content or the words were there, but the links were not activated. So thank you for letting me know. So if you see anything like that, let me know and I can fix it right away for you. But now let's get into A-class exercise, and if we finish early, we can call it night early as well. And I'm recording this for our classmates in Brownsville. And so let's go. So we go to A-class exercise. And so the first step is to download this guy and save it. So I'll right click on the zipped folder.
Can you make it available?
Oh, it's not available yet? Should be if you
Yes.
let's download that zip folder and then let's extract it or unzip it. Zip folder here and extract all. Extract. This guy that is not zipped. See the content, and so we have all the files that we need. So this is a company that is based in the United States. And then also the competitors, which is the international sales, they were very nice to share the same data that we have been collecting here in the United States, so we can compare what they have with them. So now let's click on this. Back here, and I will open the PDF. So lab 0 is just showing you how you can install Power BI and how you unzip the folder. So we don't need that 01. So we need lab 1. So I will click on this lab 1 PDF. I'll put it here in the. Then at the same time, I will open up Power BI. So I'll just click on Power BI. For Power BI desktop. Let's start new Power BI desktop. So what I did is I clicked on report under new, so that it took me to this page. So everyone is good so far to this point? Everything is good? So some computers are slow. So for this one. Okay. It might ask you to enter your email so you can. always scroll down, this guy. And we will start by getting data. We'll start by accessing data. And to do that, we have again two files. So we have one file called sales that, and also the data consists of 7 years of data. And also we have the date, product, and zip code for each manufacturer. And it is from 7 countries, right, for the competitors. And for the sales, which in the US, we have product, geography, manufacturer, and then we have by dimensions for US sales. So for this, we will start with step number 1, and we already have actually Power BI desktop selected. And USA, this is if I am doing this workshop outside the United States, so we need to put the US, English, and so on. So we'll move on by getting the data. So from here, so we'll start by loading the USA sales data, which is in CSV. So from here, we take into the get data. So we'll click on get data, and then we are going to go to the CSV, which is text CSV. Diana, you are good. So text CSV, we'll click on this guy. And then we can navigate to the folder that we just unzipped. So we should find it. For me, I put it in my downloads folder. Data, so US sales. And then you will see the CSV is called sales. Everyone is good so far? Okay. So we'll see. Open. Now, going to select the transform data. So this is the, we already have the limiter is the comma, we say transform data. Now when we click on transform data, you will see that we have in the Power Query editor. Remember our guest speakers, we were talking about Power Query. So this is one thing that we are going to use from now on. So Power Query editor. And now let's just look at the data and then how we can clean it. And here. So now just by looking at some of the values here, such as the zip code, you will notice that it has numbers in it. And remember, for us, zip code, we don't use it for calculation, so it doesn't have to be numeric. We can put it text, just in case some zip codes start with 0. If we use numeric and some zip codes start with 0, the 0 will be gone, right? So, but if you use it as text, then it will show the 0. So now instead of using it, let's right click on the zip. And then let's say that change type. You will notice that now it is using it as whole number. For us, we want to change that to text. So we'll select text. And then say replace correct. So now moving to, now we are going to get the by dimensions file, which is in an Excel file. So the first file was in text CSV. Now we are going to import or use an Excel file called by dimensions. So we are going to go through the new source. So click on new source. And then you can use Excel workbook from here. And then you will automatically see that by dimensions, it automatically figured out which file has Excel or it's an Excel type, and then we'll say, okay. So now it is loading for us. Those ones. So now we need to select only the top three. So the product here, we have product table and we have product sheet. So we want to select the product table, the JO, and the manufacturer. Right, only those three. As you can see here. So we want the product table, JO, and manufacturer. The product is a repetition, so we don't need that for product sheet here. And then we can click OK. So we can start loading it, and it's going to be where they are here in the query. So now let's add additional data. So now we are going to add the international subsidiaries, which are the competitors. They were really nice to allow us to use their data. Right. So now we will do that through new source. And then let's go to more, because if you notice here, when I go to the international files, international sales, I have multiple files from 7 countries, and all of them, they have the same columns, the same data types, everything is the same. But now you will see how powerful is Power BI. Instead of uploading each file by itself, we can use the folder to upload all of them by selecting only the name of the folder. So let's do that. And that's one thing that small businesses, because they are migrating or they say, oh, I've been using Excel forever and they make a lot of mistakes. I want something more powerful. So the next step is Power BI, right? Because Power BI is Excel on steroids, right? So let's do that. So now let's go to a new source. And then we'll say more. So from more here, you see that we have an options for folder. So we'll select folder and then say connect. Now we get this browse where it wants us to browse to that folder, which is we're going to browse. And in my case, I need to go to this PC, then downloads this file. That's the guy in one. So the same thing for you. You can navigate to the folder that you saved it in, and then you select international sales and say OK. And then we'll say OK. Now it is uploading for us those 7 files. So now we can just click on combine and transform data. That really cool where it combines all of those data instead of uploading one each at a time, which will take forever. So now we can just click OK. All right, so now you will notice in the queries that we have this file called international sales. So one file for all of those 7 countries. So now we can just go through cleaning, inspecting the data and see how we can clean it. Same thing, it has the same issue. Remember, the US file has the same columns like this one, like the zip code or the zip. It has the same issue. It is as all, the data type is all numbers. We want to change it to text again. So we'll select text and then replace current. And now you will notice that is different in this file, which is international sales from the US sales, is that we have two new columns, which is the source name, which is basically the name of the country, and then the country name, right? So the source is basically the name of the file source, and the country is because it has that column, those in that form. So now let's see what else we need to do. So we need to remove that source name. We don't need it. So we can just right click on it and remove. So the source name, we don't need it. So we'll remove it. And then we'll move on to the country. And we need to fix that a little bit. So now let's move on and see what's next. So now let's look at the country. If you notice here, if we click on this drop down for the country, you will notice that Power BI by default shows the first 200 rows or 200 values from that row. So now it shows, it recognizes only Australia, because from Australia we might have thousands, right? So the first 200, they are from Australia. Now it is showing us only Australia. But actually we have 7 countries. So to show that, so we need to be able to show the rest of the countries by clicking on load more. So let's load more. And we'll wait for it. It's gonna load. And it will show us all the countries. So now we can see all the countries. So let's say, okay, so that means we are good now. We have all the countries that we wanted to work on. All right, so now let's prepare our data for our analysis. So today we're not gonna do any analysis. We'll just work on cleaning and preparing the data for our analysis that we're gonna do next week and the weeks after. So we are going to rename the tables here that we have. So the first guy, the first table, so let's minimize this guy. We don't need it for now. And those are the tables that we need. So the first table is sales, second table. So the product table, I need to name it product. Double click on it, the geo, I need to call it geography. By double clicking on it, it will allow you to rename it. So manufacturer, sales. Tables are renamed. So now notice that in the sales file, we had only the US. And then the international sales, it has all the other countries. So now we want him to combine those. Empty values, let's see. So we want to select the product. So we will get to that when we combine here, you will end the sales and the international sales later. But now let's look at the product. So the product file, and let's go to the category column. So you will notice that the category column, and if we click on this drop down, we will see that we have several categories: mix, rural, urban, youth, and so on. But it has null values. And when we learned in database management systems, we said normalization, we need to get rid of nulls, right? So, so now we are going to use a feature which is called the fill, the down fill or the up fill. So we are going to use the down fill feature in Power BI, which is also available in Excel. So to do that, what we need to do is, so right now, the one with below mix, is basically, we're supposed to call it mix, but it is using blanks for null instead. So for us, we're gonna tell it do that. And the other thing is about the data quality. If you notice that we have, if you put your cursor here in this, we have here gray bar and we have also green, and we have also green bar here. So this one for the product column, it says 100% already, right? The quality is 100% for the product. For category, the quality is only, is it 3% only, right? So that means we need to fix it, right? So now by fixing this, the fill drop down, it is going to help us actually fix it. So we can either go as the PDF tells us go to add columns and this and that. So for us, we can right click on this guy and use fill, and then use the fill down. I really like this shortcut where you right click instead of going to the ribbon and trying to find where each of those commands are. So we'll just say down. Boom, now you can see the green guy is 100%. Great. So now let's move on. So the product, so let's go to the product column. So if you notice the product column, we have two things, all season in one side, and then before that we have us. So it seems to be we have two things, the product and the segment. They are in the same concatenated, right? So when we use Excel sometimes or SQL, sometimes we concatenate, right? Which helps. But here we want to separate it because we want to do analysis, and we can use this for grouping by, and we can use it for answering some analytical questions. So we need to, what do we call it? We need to split this column based on that little guy, which we call it that bar. So let's split this guy. So we will select this guy and see if we can split it from here. Yes, split column. And then we will use a delimiter. So we'll use the delimiter. And yes, we are going to use custom because remember that little kind of what do we call it? The bar, we had a name for it here. We call that pipe, the pipe something simple. So here, instead of the hyphen, we're going to remove it and do the shift. And where is, so in your keyboard, that pipe will be, anyone see it?
Above enter,
Where is it?
above enter,
Above enter. Mine.
Go backspace.
It doesn't, right, and it seems to be, or maybe I haven't located it yet.
the same one as backslash, no? Right over
It's supposed to be straight instead of back,
But
slash.
it's the same key, like press shift and then backslash.
Oh, okay. So shift and then the back. Yes, perfect, thank you. Because the keyboard here doesn't,
Yeah, it's probably like blurry, yeah.
yeah, but perfect. So everyone got it? That pipe? Yeah, you got it? Perfect. So now we have that pipe. And then so we'll just leave everything here, each reference, and then we'll say, okay, for now. You will notice that we have two. So we have product one, which is the first, which is the product name, and product two, which is basically the segment. So now we can rename those two guys. And so this product one, I will just double click on it. I will just keep product. One, we call it product. And then for the second one, where it says product two, I want to call it segment. How much is the price? Yeah, see the price. This is very problematic because we have the US sign, US dollar sign. We don't want that because it will not allow us to calculate the sum or the count or the average or so on, right? So we need to split this guy too. So we'll use the same technique that we did for splitting the column. So there is a better way here. And also this feature is available in Excel as well, where it says we can actually do it from all columns. So let's go to the all columns. We'll select and then all columns and then choose column from example. Column from example. Right? So now in here, we're gonna put in that first row, the price was US dollar, and instead we are gonna put only the numbers. And so the numbers which are 412.13. Right? So now you will notice that, and if I click on enter, you will notice that in gray in the below, it recognizes the pattern that I'm interested only in the numbers of that right? So Power BI and Excel is very powerful. You want me to redo this step?
No, the others don't know. No.
But this, yeah, it's only one. And then now let's rename that instead of the title, I'll need the column title. Instead of text, we can just call it price. Let me call it price or currency. Let's see what they want us to call it. MSBR. So we will rename this guy MSBR and then click OK. You click OK now. It will recognize all those numbers. Isn't that beautiful? Even Excel has that. You know, even the fill on this also feature is available in Excel. So this is great. And then we will move on next. So you will notice that the data type for this guy is text because US dollars and numbers. So for us, we need to right click on this guy and change type. So it is text, we want it to be instead fixed decimal number. Fixed decimal number, what it really does, it fixes how many decimals we want. We want only 2, so that keeps it as fixed. So 2 decimal points. That's now let's look at that. You need to do the same thing for the currency. So we are going to create column from example, right? Because we have the US currency, we have the Japanese yen, and we have so many different currencies. So we want a column for currencies. So we'll do the same thing. We just go to column from example. Now you just type USD. Okay. Then you would call this column. So now this guy, which is the column that says price, we don't need it anymore, so we'll just remove it. Right click on this, the price column. Because it's useless, we don't keep text and numbers in the same place, so we'll just remove this guy. All right, now let's select the geography. If you notice that in the geography table, we have the first column, two columns, the first two rows, they are useless, we don't need them. We need, actually, the column name is the zip and city, so in other words, the first two rows, we don't need them, so we need to get rid of them. Right, so to do that, we can here. Instead, we can just go for. So we're gonna go to the home tab. And remove rows. So everyone is good. Remove rows, we were able to find it. And then remove rows. And we need to select remove top rows. Everyone is good. If I'm going too fast, let me know. Okay, everyone is good? All right. So now we have this. So for this one, what are the top two that we want to remove? The top two, right? So we say two, and then say, okay, now it's removed the top two. Now we're ready, but still we want the zip and the city to be the headers, right? So now we have an option here where it says use first row as headers. Let's click on this guy. Use first row as header. Now we have very nice table. So in Brownsville, if you couldn't catch up with us, it's fine. I'm recording this session, and you can complete it at your own pace and submit it later on. Okay. So let's see. So now we can go to what we already did this step, which is using the first row as the headers. So we're coming to that step now. Let's look at the zip code again. If you notice that the zip code data type, we need to change the type from whole number to text again. So this is the third time we have done it, but we need to make sure that our data garbage in, garbage out, right? Consistent. So we want to make sure the quality of the data is consistent, right? So select replace current in, okay, we already did that. So now we select the manufacturer. So in the manufacturer table, you will notice that the last three rows, they are useless. They don't have anything, they are all null, and they don't have anything that is useful. So we're gonna do the same thing, remove rows, and then instead of top, we are gonna remove bottom. Right, so we can go. Remove bottom rows. In this case, we're gonna remove the bottom three. Same thing. Right. So now, if you notice that they are transposed. So the columns are actually in the first column, This is, should be a column name, this is another column name, and this is a column name, so we need to transpose those. And we can easily transpose those guys by going to the transpose, we need to go to the transform. And then you will see the transpose. There. Right, so the one you can see it, so under transform and then transpose. Now we have a table that looks like a table. In here, we need to use the first row as header. Go home, to the home tab. And then use first row as header. Now, it looks good. Place the manufacturer table. So if you happen and you are working on your own data set, and you will notice that we don't have undo option here, right? So if you have made a mistake, you can always come to here the applied steps and actually remove it, click on the X. It will remove that whole step and you can redo it from scratch. So if you did any mistakes, just delete it from here and redo it, right? All right, so now the appending queries, this is kind of a little bit tricky one. If you do it in hastily, it might actually do a lot of mess for you, right? So now we are going to append in the sales file, we want to append those competitors, which is in the international sales. We want to combine them all or append them into the sales, right? So let's do that. So I will select the sales. So that's the first step, is to select the sales table from the left and under queries. And then we are going to go to the home tab and then find where it says append and queries. And queries. So how many tables? We have 2, because we already combined the international sales. They were 7, we combined them into 1. So now we can say only 2 tables, right? So we selected sales. So what is the next or the second table that we want to append? So from here, can you guess which table we need to append? National sales, perfect. So we're going to select that guy because it is the competitors and we want to combine it with our manufacturer US sales. And we already combined those 7 countries, 7 manufacturers, and then say, okay. Now it is going to append that and it will you will notice that now we have null under country. The US, we didn't have that column country because we already know we are US, right? So now we need to fix that and create kind of an if function, but we are going to use the GUI for the if else function to fill out those nulls for the US. Because other countries, they have their names in this column. So now let's do that. So we're going to go to the add columns, to the add column in the ribbon, and then we are going to select conditional column. The conditional column, that's basically the if else, right? So conditional column, And then, so the name of the column, we want to call it country name. And the column name is country. So if the country name equals null, then the output should be USA. But we should not be in a hurry yet because we have the else here, the else. Else select column. So if it is not null, then we wanted to keep the name of the country. Select the column, which is, remember the Japan and all of that, they have their name in front already in, so let's just keep the name of the country here. And then we'll say, okay. So now you will notice that we have the US, just double check, because sometimes you might do this step really quick. Double check by right clicking on this guy and hit load, just to make sure that the other country is there. Otherwise, if you didn't do the else thing, you might actually end up with all of them as US. But now we are on the safe side. We have all countries here, including the US. All right, so now we have country name. And we already applied those steps. So we're going to remove the country, this column here where it says country. We don't need it because it has the nulls and we already fixed. So we remove this guy. After removing that country column, now we can rename this guy to country instead of country. Because if we have two countries, it will not allow us in the same file. So now every time we upload this or open this Power BI, it is going to do all those steps for us from scratch. Appending and appending the international sales with the sales table. So for us, we want to make sure that we select or we deactivate that uploading and that activation. But we don't want it every time to append, right? So to do that, those are the steps that we're going to do. So we are going to go to the international sales column. And we're going to right click on it. And we are going to make sure that this way it says enable load, we are going to click it and to deselect it, right? Because now it is selected, so it's like a check mark next to it. We want to deselect it. We don't want it to load, right? So now, if you right click on it, now it doesn't have that check. Well, that's what we want. We don't want it to be checked. Right. So additional things that are here, it's like Power BI. We can see the dependencies, see how we can find or show the dependencies. So yeah, dependencies. So this is very similar to Power BI. Have you worked with Power BI before? Not Power BI.
Access?
There is Power Pivot. There's pivot table, which is where but there is Power Pivot. Power Pivot basically integrates access and it shows it this way. I have used it in my 33 mining course. If you have taken that course with me, you might have done it. But it integrates access with Excel. So in other words, it does the relationships for you. And you can run queries, do pivot tables based on relational database. So we are good with that dependencies. Now we're gonna save this file. So we're done. So we're going to go to. So we're gonna go to close and apply. So close and apply, it's going to load all the processes that we have done, all the cleanup, all the pending, all the combining for us. So it's gonna load it and save it. We'll wait for it. We'll do it one at a time. Then when it is done, we can save it as whatever we want. First, the I model. So in programming, what is the most common first project you do in programming world, or computer world, right? So this is my first Power BI. So now let's save this guy. So again, if you want to go back to that Power Query, you can always go to the transform. You go to the transform here, and then you will get all that, what we have been working on. So you will see all the steps here and all the queries that we just worked on right here. Right. So now we have that. And now let's save this file. We're going to save it. I like to save it as, and then go to whatever you want to save it as. In my case, I will just save it. And we'll call it my first Power BI model. Save it, right? And that's actually getting the data ready for our analysis, and we will continue with this next week. Right, so I will see you next Thursday. At the same time, during that time, you can work on your extra credit. I would suggest that you can work on it little by little. Don't wait until it's very heavy.
We don't have any more quizzes?
So we are done with quizzes. Okay. So everything you will do is using that ebook. Yeah, so week 1 was very light, but week 2 and week 3, it's gonna be a little bit heavier, but it is a lot of fun. You're gonna enjoy working with it, because you learn a lot of skills from it, and that's where we are going to go. So if you have any questions. Any questions from Brownsville?